welcome back to Ticking Gray Bomb. This time it's Mase with an unboxing video. Uncle Max has been on fire with his videos and I'm just trying to get one on the board. So here we go. Alright, let me crack this open and see what's inside. Alright, I didn't have as much trouble as Uncle Max on the Furlong Mari video, but still took a little bit to get it out of the package. Alright, so that's right, we've got a Seiko here. It does have the usual bland outside box, but so that's right, this is the SRPK17. It's a recreation of the 1968 Seiko 5 Sports 61 5D, replicating the style of the original with updated specifications. So, you take this watch out of the box and immediately, right off the bat, you see the aesthetic from the 1960s and early 70s. And if you've been watching our channel, you know that I love the 70s aesthetic. This is a limited edition of 15,555, and this one is in the 4,000s. Let's face it, when a brand announces that their new release is limited, and you find out that there are over 15,000 of them, I mean, can we really say it's limited? It loses any cachet that the phrase limited edition holds in your mind, doesn't it? Make no mistake about it, this is very much like the watch it celebrates in the time period it comes from, with just a few design tweaks. If you've looked for vintage watches from this era, especially chronographs, this will feel right at home for you. This has a black dial, gray hour and minute hand, a red lollipop seconds hand. You'll notice the word sports is in blue at the 6 o'clock position. The outer rim of the dial feels very familiar, especially if you're a fan of racing watches from the 60s and 70s. There's a black bi-directional bezel. It is friction based, so it's pretty smooth here. And it is in 5-minute increments. It's not a dive watch, so it doesn't have the unidirectional ratcheting bezel that you might find. Of all the things that drew me to this watch, the one that I was most curious about was the bracelet. It very much reminds me of watches from the 60s, really the 70s and 80s, that were linked together by elastic so that people could just slip it over their wrist very easily and feel tight once it was on. You really don't see those anymore, so I'm guessing that the elastic led to a lot of failure for that style of bracelet. The metal band really brings it back to that 70s era as well. Now that we've talked about the initial impressions of the watch, I'm going to take a second, take a couple links out and get it on my wrist. Okay, I took a couple of links out on either side, and I'll show you how this fits. So the bracelet's a little bit stiff, and it doesn't seem like the spacing between the links are uniform. You can see this one's a little bit thicker than the others. But what's really interesting is, it's pretty stiff. So when you've got it kind of linked together, it really holds this oval, round shape. And so that carries forward when you put it on your wrist. And this is, for me, I've got about 7 3/8 to 7.5 inch wrists. And so you can see it hugs on the sides, so here and here, right? But then, and I'm going to try to get this, you can see how much space is sort of left, and that's because it's really pinchy here, but it doesn't feel tight overall, and it does give a little play. You can see it kind of jiggle back and forth. It's a little bit tight here, but there's still some space under here. So I don't know if this bracelet will loosen up over time and be more like kind of a jangly Jubilee or something like that. So we'll see how that carries forward as I continue to wear this watch. The SRPK17 specs. Case diameter 39.5 millimeters, 12.5 millimeters thick, lug to lug 43 millimeters, lug width of 20, but I will tell you that it does taper from where it meets the case to where you get to the removable links. Water resistance of 100 meters, and it's an automatic movement with manual wind capability. So I thought it'd be interesting to compare the SRPK17 to a Seiko watch from the 70s. You can see some of the aesthetic that I've referenced before. This is the 6139-7012. It's a chronograph. Really interesting. It's got the cushion case, just like the SRPK17. This is a replacement bracelet from Uncle Seiko, but you can see how the design elements between the two watches, very familiar, and even similar sizing. This is about 1 millimeter wider. It's about 1 millimeter thicker. And it has the same lug to lug of 43 millimeters. So you can kind of see this in comparison to the SRPK17. This is the SRPK17. Just got it in my hands, just unboxed it. I will take this for a spin, looking forward to it. The dial, the hands, the racing, minute markers on the dial, the cushion case all appeal to my love of the 70s aesthetic when it comes to watches. The big area of concern for me is going to be this bracelet. I can already tell it's going to be pinchy around my wrists here, leaving a little bit of space underneath my wrist. So I'll see how that plays out, see if this loosens up over time. But I think, this is a watch that goes for $415. I think it's aesthetically very cool. It harkens back to an older era. And I think I'm going to get some enjoyment out of it. I think it's pretty good value for what you get. Please let me know what you think about this watch. If you've got one, let us know your experience about it. And please like and subscribe the video.